Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the NAMS webinar this afternoon. Thank you for joining us. My name's Julia Breakwell. I'm the Vice Principal at Heart of Worcestershire College and I sit on the NAMS exec. This afternoon, we've got a webinar hosted by Emsi, looking at careers and the use of LMI data. We've got about an hour set aside. We are recording the session, so if you do have to leave, we obviously send you the recording out. And if you want to pop questions in the chat, what we'll do is we'll try and pick them up as we go along. We might take some breaks and certainly we'll pick them up at the end. And if any, we will at the end, those of you that join the webinar, we'll be passing your emails on to Ben. So if you do object to that and you don't want your email passed on to Ben, who I'm going to introduce in a minute, Emsi, then let us know. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Ben in a second. I've known Ben Owen a long time. He is someone who was also on the NAMS exec a few years ago. He has a lot of background in FE with a range of senior posts in various different colleges. So I think it's always good for us in colleges if the person that is presenting the product actually has worked in a college, because that's one of the things I think we all find sometimes a little frustrating when people don't understand. So I think we're delighted to have Ben with us. He's been with Emsi about 7 months. He used the package before, as I have done for some number of years in our college. So I'm going to hand over to Ben. He's going to take you through a presentation and then we'll go from there. Okay, thanks. Over to you, Ben. Welcome.
Thank you, Julia, and thank you for inviting us. Thanks for NAMS, really appreciate it. Great organisation like NAMS, allowing us to take up some people's time this afternoon on a very nice Friday afternoon, and welcome everyone that's joined us. So part of my role, account director at Emsi, is obviously to support our current clients, and Heart of Worcestershire is one of our current clients for both analyst and career coach. So today I'm going to go through a shortish presentation and then show some examples on the system of our career coach product, which is something like Julia said, I've used in colleges. So I've worked in FE nearly 14 years as a former careers leader in one of our previous colleges. And I think LMI really has come to the forefront, particularly in this inspection framework, but also around, obviously the Gatsby frameworks, and also around the stuff that's coming out at the minute of the white paper. And I think it's more important than ever that obviously colleges, for one reason or another, can start to evidence the impact on their local skills demand. So we're going to go through that today. I will turn my camera off when I start presenting, primarily because my internet always sort of goes a bit sketchy, so I don't want to interrupt my presentation. So I'm just going to share my screen. Spare me 1 second. Can everyone see that? Can everyone see my nice little multicolored screen there?
Yep, we can.
Perfect. So I'm just going to turn that off and then move over to the presentation. So what we're going to do today is really sort of talk through some examples of how career coach can be used in colleges, particularly around marketing, recruitment, but also around sort of careers. I think the last sort of 18 months, if anything, has shown us the importance of, for those sort of level 2 students that would traditionally migrate out of college after they've acquired a level 2 qualification, go into the world of work. There's a real opportunity for some of those students to stay on and study at level 3 or above. And obviously command a higher salary when they go into the job market. So we're going to look at some examples of where you can use that within your internal careers and tutorial offer as well. It's a little bit of an agenda for today's session. So, excuse me, well, I'll talk very briefly about Emsi as a company and what we do and how we put our data together, etc., and how it works with colleges and colleges course offer. Then we're going to look at what we do in terms of career coach, give you some examples. We've got some great examples of all the sort of different things you can do with career coach, a few best practice examples there, and then I'll take questions at sort of relevant points. Obviously, Julia will very kindly keep an eye on the questions for me, and then if we've time at the end, which I'm sure we will, we'll sort of log into our demonstration system and explain to you a little bit, some of the stuff that we're going through in the presentation. So let's start with, Emsi we're a global company. We were founded in the US, and predominantly that is our biggest market, but we operate in Canada, we operate in the United Kingdom, and we operate in Australia, in the sort of Asian Pacific region as well. And our mission really is what we're saying on the screen, is around sort of connecting people, educationalists and employers through that sort of common language of skills. So allowing colleges to sort of look at their curriculum offer, look at their curriculum alignment, make sure that it's sort of plugging into that local curriculum, that local employment need, that local skills need, and that you can advertise and market that to students. And as we know, lots of colleges now, it's not about marketing courses, it's about marketing those careers pathways and what people will acquire from those courses as well. Sorry, that's gone back a slide. There we go. So in terms of what we do, so in terms of LMI, explaining sort of labour market intelligence, so we have, like I said, we have two systems, analyst and career coach. Both of them are powered by LMI. And LMI is a combination of what we call structured data and big data, just any LMI, not just our LMI. So structured data is like government captured surveys. So like if you've done the census recently, that's something that you would pull in. ONS statistics you would pull in, NOMIS data, DEFRA surveys. And what that structured data is, it allows us to model what the United Kingdom workforce looks like, and allows us to break it down by industry and occupation, what we call SICs, or Standard Industry Code, and occupation, Standard Occupation Code, SOC. And then the ability to look at a geography, so a local authority or a government office region, so Yorkshire and Humber, for example, Northwest, Northeast, West Midlands, etc. So the ability to do that allows you to sort of map what those job opportunities are and where your course offering leads to. And then the other side of it is you probably heard the term big data bantered about for many years, as long as the internet's probably been around. But effectively, that's like large scale data sets that we capture, so things like job posting, analytics, skills and competency frameworks. And what that allows us to do is effectively build a 3D model around what your local economy looks like. The structured data gives us the really sort of big forecasted data, and then the live sort of big job data allows us to sort of quantify who those employers are, what those job opportunities look like, and ultimately what skills they're looking for. And how we sort of build our data that powers the career coach model. We get lots of questions from people about, well, how do you know this is happening, or what data have you used to make that judgment? These are the type of things. So on the left-hand side there, you can see like NOMIS, ONS, and lots of other acronyms as you would expect in the educational planning world. But the left-hand side is the structured data. The right-hand side is the big data, sort of live stuff. And our economists and our data engineering team pull all that together, and effectively that's what powers a lot of the data that fuels both career coach and analyst. And then one of the real strengths, I think, and this is something that we see in lots of colleges that are using career coach, one of the real big strengths, I think, is the ability to look at the difference between local authority trends and sort of county trends or LEP trends. And obviously some of your students will go further afield than just the geography of the local college that they're studying at. So you've got the ability to sort of look at what that looks like on a broader range, which again, I think is a real strength of the system and the data. So how does career coach work? Well, in essence, what we do is we take your course information and your course area information. We then map that information to SIC and SOC, so standard industry, standard occupation codes. And it allows us to have an idea about what those jobs look like. So you can articulate to students what the daily tasks are, what the skills required in those jobs, what the current employment trends look like, what the employment projections look like, how much they're going to earn, what the educational level is in terms of coming into that particular occupation or career, what are the career families, so what are the similar careers to that as well. And then we've got sort of job posting data, so you can have like live job vacancies on the system. So that's how we work with lots and lots of colleges. About half the colleges in the UK sort of use our data and our systems. And really what it's done is solving these sort of four key things. So like I said, I've been worked in lots and lots of colleges and been responsible for student services and careers and marketing and student engagement. These are the sort of core drivers, whether it's a 16 to 18 or an adult, because obviously, the impact of furlough means that a lot more adults potentially are looking at retraining or doing something different if the job's been affected as a result of COVID. So these tend to be the sort of core four core things really that sort of drive students in terms of when they're thinking about their future or thinking about doing something different. And so, from a job perspective, ultimately what they're going to earn, what does that job look like? Where does that job, what that job's going to look like? What's it going to feel like? What level do they need? Where will they get that job at the end of the course? What's the sort of trend in terms of the jobs going up or the jobs going down? You move across to employers. So who are those companies? And again, we can show that, the companies that are advertising jobs, how they can find and apply for jobs. Again, within the system, you can put employer vacancies on there, so you can have that as part of your careers program. And ultimately what employers are looking for from a skills perspective, from a person perspective as well. Down the bottom left-hand corner, what are your courses? What are they available? How do they lead into that career? How do they help you sort of progress in terms of your career as well? So I mentioned earlier on, about the opportunity to progress more students from level 2 to level 3 using some of this data, showing the difference between going in at a level 2 into a job and what sort of salary they'll earn versus going in with a higher level qualification. And then the final bit, which we've just recently added to, is sort of skills data, which again, when you think about some of the adult work, and I've done some work in the past around sort of rapid response to redundancy, it's quite scary for adults to think about coming back to college. But the reality is they've probably already got a lot of skills that they don't acknowledge because they might have been in a particular job for a long period of time. So you can use the system to look at what their job looks like, what the skills they've got, and ultimately in some cases, it won't be the need for them to come back in college and study full time for a year or for 2 years. They might come in and do a short course where they can pick a particular skills pathway, and ultimately that will help them fit into that final thing, what skills a local employer, so they can retrain and reskill without the scariness of coming back into college for a year or 2 years. So we're going to look at some examples now in terms of how to use sort of internal, external engagement, sort of the result side of it. But the first thing I wanted to really look at before we start looking at that is obviously using sort of LMI internally, if you like, and externally, is around Gatsby. So, Gatsby 2, Gatsby 4, Gatsby 8, I think a real sort of key measures around where we can assist, where our data can assist a lot of colleges. So Gatsby 2, learning from the career and labour market, well, that's effectively what our bread and butter is as a company. So we can, by using the system in terms of school engagement, parents, events, etc., you can really start to show what that course leads to, what that local job market looks like in the local area. Our analyst system, as well as Career Coach, I think feeds nicely into Gatsby 4, and actually that's, you look at all the stuff that's coming out in terms of the educational white paper. There's a lot around linking curriculum learning to careers, and in particular, like local skills plans and what's happening within your local region. So again, we can help through Career Coach, through analysts, to start to get colleges to think about how they align their curriculum and articulate the skills that people are acquiring as a result of that. And then obviously personal guidance, where you've got students that potentially are coming at the end of the course, not sure what to do. As a tool, it can be really useful. And there's some examples on there in terms of bullet points, in terms of things that we can do. So you can see there, we can use it in terms of careers advice and guidance about not right course. So if you think within that sort of first 42 days, if a student's made the wrong decision, lots of colleges have like swap not drop type programs. Again, this can be really helpful in terms of them starting to redistill what it is that they want to do and ultimately get on the right course. There's like CV building, understanding careers, like internal Moodle activities that you can do through the system as well. Excuse me, particularly around, like, say, induction or beyond induction. And then there's quite a nice set of activities that can be done, skills and the traits that individuals have through the assessment tool that we have as well. So speaking of the assessment tool, sort of moving on. So this is, for those of you that have got Career Coach, this will look very familiar. This is our standard portal and career. Career Coach has sort of 3 elements to it now. There's 3 products within the family. So there's the standalone Career Coach portal. There's our API interface, which allows us to feed LMI information directly into colleges' websites and course pages. So it's integrated. It looks and feels like your website as well. So it's a, a really sort of clever way of integrating our data into your course pages. And then we just launched a new product, which I'll talk about later on, which is called Widget Builder or plugin, and it allows you to create little widgets around each course and careers. I think that's a particularly useful one when you're thinking about that internal careers offer. Being able, if you've got Moodle or Canvas or Teams or Google Classrooms, it's compatible with all of those, where you can create little departmental widgets, so you can put that into your internal tutorial and careers program, which is great. So at the minute, we're just going to focus on our sort of core product, which is the portal. And as you can see online on the screen there, we've got the careers assessment. You can browse careers, you can browse courses, and you can build your CV. So what we're going to look at first is the careers assessment. So the careers assessment comes in sort of 3 shapes and sizes, if you like. So you've got a quick assessment, which is 6 questions, standard assessment, which is 30 questions, and then obviously a detailed assessment, which is 60 questions. And obviously, I'm sure the more questions that you answer, obviously the more accurate the fit is. In terms of usage and what we see other colleges that use the product, the quick assessment seems to be something that's used predominantly around school engagement, particularly as school engagement's been digital. I know we're hopefully going to be starting to get back to sort of face-to-face engagement in schools, and some of you may already be doing that. But the quick assessment's a really good way of six very standard, very sort of not too onerous questions. Good, very well structured to be able to do online as a bit of an online taster or school engagement exercise. We see lots of good college practice around that. So one example is West Lancs College. They do a particularly good job of using this assessment without out in school engagement, and they're measuring the metrics afterwards. The standard assessment is something that potentially you could think about using as part of your recruitment process. So if you have a process where you have a sort of 2-stage interview process, or a lot of that will be online and will have been online in terms of how we've had to work in the last 18 months. The sort of standard assessment's a nice little activity for students to do, again starting to sort of distill down what it is that they're wanting to do, where they're wanting to go. And then the detailed assessment, personally I've used that in sort of the induction activity, that first 6 weeks, for all students, really, a bit like BKSB, getting English and maths assessments in. I think that's a really good, going back to Gatsby, it's a really good way of sort of evidencing that they've gone through a very thorough process of why they're coming to college, if an apprentice or a classroom-based learner, what it is they're wanting to study, what it is ultimately that they think their course is leading to. When you think Ofsted's inspection framework, the quality of education, the 3 I's, the intent, implementation, impact. The intent is very much, why are they on that course? Coming into college, I want to do this, I want to do that, it's going to lead me to X, Y, and Z. So I think, again, really useful sort of little tool. So if we just look at the sort of 6 questions that we've currently got, if we look at the 6-question one, I undertook this and did a bit of a screenshot. And what I like about this, again, and it's a good activity to get students, certainly from a school engagement perspective, you end up with sort of your top traits. And you can see on the right-hand side there, they can retake the assessment, they can save the results, or they can download the full results. It gives them a really nice little booklet. So again, thinking about lesson planning or thinking about career planning, you can get them to say what the top 3 traits, record that and sort of talk a little bit about why they feel that they're the 3 traits as well. So it's a nice little tool, again, nice for them to go away and get that little booklet around what sort of motivates them, why they should be looking at that career pathway and that course offering. And like I said, the key thing for me is around, like you said, that saving the results requires them to sort of register and log on. And again, that's where you can start to see the sort of impact, particularly internally. If you're using this as part of your internal careers offer, you can start to evidence the impact. We've got colleges that use this that have had sort of 1,1700 of these assessments done during the course of the academic year. So if you think about internal self-assessment. So, you're wanting to put in your SAR the impact of careers or the impact of your tutorial program. That's a good way if you're getting, internal students to register on the system. It's a really good way of getting them to sort of, show the impact of that, particularly if your progression rates are starting to get higher as well. And then what it looks like once you've completed the assessment is it gives you a list of sort of your top career matches. So you can see here, I completed the sort of 6-question one. No massive surprise. I've been in and out of education for 14 years. So my biggest match there is education and training. But what's also really good is it gives you different sort of areas, industries that you can look at. So health and public services, business administration. So again, thinking about working with the adult market, where someone's potentially, looking at changing career or at risk of losing the job, it gives them ideas based upon skills and based upon, occupation profiles. It gives them some ideas of other things that they can go into, which I think, again, is a really nice tool. And just as an FYI, when you're in the system as a student, as long as you stay in the system, that match will always appear. So you can dive in and out of the careers and course information, and it'll always tell you the match to your assessment, which I think is quite a nice little tool as well. So then the next one is careers. And ultimately that will allow us, we've mapped all your course offerings to careers, so all your course offer in a college. So it'll tell you all the careers that are available based upon that curriculum offer within the area. But you can also browse for like a broader career. So you can free text and search for a career as well. And what that looks like, so you can see here on this example here, I've put nursing auxiliary and assistant. So you get a really sort of nice overview from a student. So again, it's a really good activity to ask them, what the average salary is, how many jobs are in the area, what courses are linking to that. You can see here that you've got available courses there. So it's great that you've looked at a career and it's immediately pulling in what those courses are in that particular geography and within your college that are sort of linking to that as well, which is really useful. So you can see their median salary, jobs, and course information, which I think is really useful. And the geography side of it can be set as broad or as little as you want, within the agreement and the contract. So you can have quite a broad region to search or quite a narrow region to search. And then once someone creates a profile, so thinking about internal students, once they've created a profile, they can save and save and favorite courses and favorite occupations. And again, you can see that in the analytics. So if you set your tutor groups up, you can see what students are looking at and what they're favoriting as well. So that you can tailor your support to students based upon what they're like in the system. The other thing that I think is quite good is the about section. So again, thinking about asking them to do a piece of work, research your career, research your occupation. You can go in, get the bare contents of an overview, get the contents of what the daily tasks are going to be, what the educational level is in most of those type of jobs. And you can see that there. And then moving on, we've got like what skills employers are asking for. So this is a relatively new addition to the system, and it's one that's more aligned to our bigger analyst product and our job posting data. So we have access to tens of thousands of live job posting data that fuels this system as well. But I think that's a particularly, given the sort of landscape around sort of skills and skills-based curriculum, I think this is really interesting, both for new students from a marketing and recruitment perspective, but also for existing students around making sure that, when they're doing the main program of study or when they're going to industrial placement or work experience or doing additionalities, how are they acquiring those skills? How are they including that, if you like, in their CV? And obviously we break it down into sort of hard and soft skills. So I think, the sector will have a real challenge, particularly within this, start of this year for Y12 students, particularly around that soft skills. The sort of disruption to learning, a lot of those young people have not had the normal peer-to-peer interaction. They've not had the sort of key things that happen in their life in Y10 or Y11 that allows them to build in, those sort of resilience and communication. And we've got there for you, enthusiasm, compassion. It's been difficult, very difficult to obviously put that curriculum online, impossible to put that behaviour, attitude, personal development type stuff online in many cases. So I think, you know, that'll be a real challenge. But again, the system allows you to look at what courses they're studying and ultimately what skills they'll need to be developing in those first important few weeks and a few months of a new course. And then the next sort of raft of data that we've got is around sort of job posting activity, where we expect careers to be. So again, you can see on the slide there, still the same course, but again, you can see where job posting activities gone from 2018 to 2021. Really good for external recruitment, really good for supporting students around progression, great for parents and carers around reassurance, if, you know, where those job postings are going. You can see in this instance, it might have dipped a little bit. 2021, there's far more jobs being advertised as there was in 2018. And again, you can see the companies. So again, reassuring to know the NHS are advertising for lots of jobs and hospitals, trusts, etc. So being able to put an employer to that information, a local employer, is really reassuring for both students and parents. And then just sort of moving on to the next sort of phase. So again, this, in my experience, this has been really, really important, particularly for certain careers. And I'm sure most of you have probably seen spikes in some particular course offerings. So most colleges are saying like health and social care, they're seeing lots and lots of applications, and probably a direct correlation for lots of young people and adults seeing the amazing the NHS has done during the pandemic. The other sort of side of that, we're seeing lots of people apply type roles and trades curriculum within colleges. Again, they've been sort of ever present, really, haven't they, throughout lockdown, you know, plumbers, etc., and builders, etc. So I've used this as a reassurance, predominantly, like I said, for adult learners and for young people and parents and carers, because what you tend to find is sometimes, but locally, actually that trend will be booked. So, you know, plumbing might be in decline nationally, but it might not be in decline in your area. So that top graph there is really, really useful, particularly around, you know, sort of alleviating any concerns that parents, carers, students may have that they're on the wrong course. You can see in this case, really healthy position. And then you can see that the sort of top posted job titles. So again, getting students prepared for when they leave college. These are the type of roles that they need to be researching. These are the type of roles that they need to understand. And then sort of moving on to sort of similar careers. So I think similar careers, again, is useful for students that are wobbling, you know, in that first sort of 6 weeks, or within the programme, they might be really uncertain about where they're going. It's also particularly useful, and I've used it, like I said, within the sort of adult market. It's certainly where people are at risk of redundancy. By putting the current occupation in, you can sort of have a look at this and measure the difference between the two jobs. It reassures a lot of people the fact that, like I mentioned earlier on in the presentation, that people are not having to come into college and start from scratch. Really, they might, without knowing it, they've got a tremendous set of skills. Certainly if they've been in a role, you know, for a big period of time, they'll have acquired a certain set of skills. They'll just not realise that. So again, it's really good to see where those similar careers are available, and in particular, you know, like I said, what you're going to be earning. Sorry, just click forward on there. What you're going to be earning, what's the difference in educational level, you know, what that job looks like in the local area as well. And then live job postings. So this is, we partner with Indeed, which again is really good. Again, you have the function to either turn this off or turn this on or off, but you can actually advertise local jobs through Indeed, which again, I think is really useful. So, you know, you might want to turn that off at the start of the academic year and sort of turn this back on from Easter once people are sort of getting towards the end of the course, and really helps them understand. So you click on that and you'll go to a live job vacancy. You can obviously support them with CV creation, interview techniques, and getting prepared for interviews as well. So again, a really nice feature, I think, the live job postings. And I've used that. So when I worked at Grimsby, we had like a not-for-profit recruitment agency within the college. So we use the sort of live job postings, not just for the end of a curriculum for students in terms of progressing into careers, but also in terms of part-time jobs as well. So, we know some students struggle to support themselves financially through college. So it's a really good way of looking at what type of jobs are out there, not just full-time, but part-time, to make sure students have all the help they can to stay on and complete the studies and get the qualifications that they deserve. So just sort of, like I mentioned a couple of those. So we're just going to move over now to the final sort of bit in terms of the actual portal system, which is courses.
And Ben, sorry to interrupt you. Can I just ask? I think Helen might have a question. She's got her hand up.
Yeah.
Can I just stop you there and just see? I'm going to allow you to talk, Helen, if you're there. Okay, Helen, you should be able to speak now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Hello.
Go ahead, Helen. Sorry, Ben. I just thought I'd see the hand went up, and it might be relevant.
No, I'm so embarrassed. I accidentally clicked on lower hand. I'm so embarrassed.
That's all right, Helen. Don't worry. That's fine. It just shows it all works. So
I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm actually typing and making notes from what you're saying. I'm taking all of this in, and my fingers are going all over the place. So
oh, no problem, Helen. That's fine.
It all in. Thank you.
I'll mute you back out. Okay, thank you. Sorry, Ben.
No, you're fine. No, and again, it's good to know the technology works. It's always reassuring indeed. So the final bit for the portal is courses, and obviously that's the key thing. We can map your courses as much as you want, so we can create like a workbook of all your, if you're an existing college, all the mappings we've done for all your courses to all the occupations. So as you're changing your course offering, we can do that as often as you want. And what this does, and what I really like about this again, is you've got the ability to sort of customize some of this. So we can see this is a college site, and all these images on the right hand side are all off the college's website. So you can have our stock images, or actually you can have your own images, which again allows you to further customize the site. I think it's great, like I said, that it starts to look and feel and acts like a college website as well. And then the other bit, which I absolutely love, that we can do within the system, the whole point of this is, yes, you're wanting to give that good careers advice, and guidance, and you're wanting to make sure that learners are on the right course. The other thing you wanted to do is, obviously, once they've had that information and that support from you on the website and on the portal, is you actually want them to apply for the course. So this is an example of Kidderminster's career coach portal, where they have a link, and again, it's relatively simple to do, but you can look at tuition information, course information, and you can actually start an application. So you click that and it takes you through to their online web application. So again, it makes it easier, it's less clicks, the integration's better. And obviously once someone's had all that information, they're really motivated to want to study. You want to really strike while the iron's hot from a marketing and recruitment perspective. So this is a really good way of sort of showcasing that as well. Just going to move on now in terms of like a few of the things around external engagement. So we have a function called new work opportunities. We have very few colleges that use it, but from an employer engagement perspective, and this is where, like say, you can bring your apprenticeship recruitment teams, your apprenticeship delivery teams in. You can go out and partner with employers, and I'm sure every college on the call, or every college that will watch this webinar, have partnerships with employers. What you can do is you can advertise their apprenticeship vacancies, their work placements, full and part-time vacancies directly on the portal. So again, it's a good way of driving traffic into the portal. So you know that people are using it, they're getting the good link to LMI, so the good link between careers and courses, but a really good way of sort of, highlighting maybe 6 or 7 key employers that you really want to forge a good partnership with. They can advertise their vacancies. You give them a sort of access to a very small part of the back end, and they can post vacancies with your approval, which again, I think is a really good way of sort of, thinking about that. I've touched upon parental engagement, but again, a really good way, like I say, through recruitment, definitely getting parent and carers to think about how they get part of that decision process, certainly for younger students. And then sort of school engagement. We have quite a few colleges. We have the ability within the system to recreate a portal, but put the school logo on. So I did this in 2 or 3 colleges that I worked at, and it really helped strengthen the relationship. So most schools tend to not have our software, but it's a really good way of again engaging that partnership with school, giving them access to that core LMI, and obviously the added advantage is students are using a system that they will become familiar with if they come to college. So there's a few examples there around sort of external engagement. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to move into some examples. So apologies for the embarrassment, Julia, of using your college, but this is one of my, it is one of my favourite.
Okay.
It is one of my very, very favourite examples of how you can integrate LMI into marketing and recruitment. So these are some screenshots of Heart of Worcestershire's prospectus, and Hannah, the head of sales and marketing, does an amazing job in terms of obviously putting this. So the prospectus is sort of A4 high, but about sort of a 2/3 wide as A4, and for each careers section they've created these fantastic graphics, which again, you think about, this sort of range of a prospectus and how it gets sent out, and obviously I know lots are online, but they've still got this content. I absolutely think this is great, and I wanted to pick a couple of those IT jobs, as you can see on the right hand side. That's digital is the one that everyone's asking about, but it's really great to see that. Really good practice. So some other good practice, a bit of a case study here, is Lincoln College. So Rachel Adair, who's the head of department at Lincoln, has taken our sort of career coach portal and cut it to pieces by using the sort of URL for each of the different parts of the page, and put it onto their internal careers page. So they can identify the traffic of where people are coming on, what they're doing. There's some really clever stuff on there. They've created sort of career quizzes. They've got your LMI stuff, you've got your job profile stuff. So that's through their internal Moodle page. They're currently converting all of this and moving it over to Canvas as well. But when I first saw this, I thought it's a fantastic example. I did something similar when I was head of student services at Chesterfield, that we wanted to bring a lot of this onto Moodle, and in particular, for those different sort of academic Moodle pages. I know lots of colleges have moved beyond Moodle, and like I said, I've got Canvas and Teams and stuff, but the methodology still stands really sound and fantastically helpful resource in terms of, like I said, making sure students are settled in, making sure they're on the right course, and really maximising those progression opportunities to level 3 and beyond. I think it's a particularly good example, and there you've got the sort of page in a bit more detail. And what, like I said, the careers quizzes bit is great. So when you click on the career quizzes bit, what you actually get is a link to the assessment that we saw earlier on in the portal. I think it's absolutely fantastic. They save the assessment, and the careers team can track which students have logged on and stuff. So really good example of sort of pushing those Gatsby benchmarks, but really getting value out of the product as well. Some other good examples, and again, using it externally. So I've chucked in a few different colleges here. There's on the left-hand corner there, we've got Wakefield College. We do our own webinars, and I did one with Lee Allsop a couple of months ago around sort of how Wakefield have embraced it. And again, they've used that career coach link, particularly around school engagement, but just in general as part of their student recruitment. Every letter that gets sent out has got a link, to encouraging people to go onto the career coach portal. We've got at the side of it another shameless plug for Heart of Worcestershire College, but at the side of it we've got Future Fridays, which is an initiative that Heart of Worcestershire have done, where each Friday they'll use the LMI data that they get in terms of highlighting careers, highlighting things that are happening, in particular, newish careers or exciting careers. And then we've got some other examples from colleges as well in terms of how they're using it on the website, or how they're using it in like online marketing activity, social media, etc. And like I said, we have seen a lot of use in terms of online school engagement, which is fantastic to see. There's a couple of bits around the sort of technical side of it as well. So we, like I mentioned, we have the portal, but we also have API, and we also have plugin. API allows you to put that careers information directly onto your website, and there's some screenshots there. So sort of bottom left hand corner there, we've got Boston College website. So when you're looking at your career page, you've got all these sort of average careers, what jobs are leading to, salaries, etc. And the newest addition to our sort of software offer is plugin. So that's an example of a widget that you can create. So again, you can stick that little widget on your website. You can put it on your internal marketing. You can put it within Moodle via Canvas, etc. And it just the call to actions for students again to sort of use that as part of their career research, career planning as well, which is good. And just an example here around our API. So this is Sheffield College's website, and when you land on that, you can see search by careers, search by subject, search by level of study, search by interest. All that's powered by all the data that I've just talked about, our career coach platform. So when you click onto each of those pages, you can really get underneath that. So it'll tell you how many games designers are in Sheffield, what courses they're doing, how many there's going to be in the next few years. Just a really good example, I think, of again how you can sort of use our data from an external marketing perspective. You can see there you've got these sort of different links, and then LMI for marketing, I think, is really key. At the minute, the plugin tool isn't enabled to work on social media, but that is something that will be coming soon. So you can create a little widget and sort of share that through Insta or through TikTok, etc. as it would be. Probably need to update that slide because we've moved away from Facebook, haven't we? That's just my generation now that use Facebook. But you can see there an example on the left-hand side. That's North Lindsay. They're using Twitter. Created a nice little graphic there and obviously used that and sort of pushed that out to their sort of local area. And again, going back to a few years ago when I worked at Sheffield College, we had like copywriters within the marketing team that would write sort of Instagram or sort of social media, Snapchat type content that was aimed very much at young people, with it, powered by LMI as well, which is a great way of getting that message out there, getting what you're doing as a college out there into a bigger audience. Coming towards the end of the presentation now, so the sort of last slide, and then I can pause for any questions, but the last slide, and I think is the one that is most underused in my experience. So there is an admin area. You need to create yourself as an actual user, register as a user, and then just drop myself or my colleague John, depending on where your college is. If you're in the north, it's me. If you're south, it's John. And we can turn that into an admin. And in the admin access, you have a real wealth of information. Like I mentioned, for your self-assessment reports, for your positioning statements from an Ofsted perspective. It helps you with some curriculum planning activities because you've got what courses people are searching for. It allows you to look at whether campaigns were successful, what schools have engaged, because you can ask for students to sort of say what school that they're from on the sort of login section. What are the most popular courses? What are the least most popular courses? It surprised me when I started working for Emsi, because I am a data geek. I should have probably said that at the start, so apologies. I'm one of these weird sort of student services data geek type people, but on the same side of it, I was amazed at how many colleges don't use this admin function when I started working at Emsi. And I think if you're watching and you are a client and you're not using it, definitely reach out and I'm happy to have sort of 10 minutes virtually and talk you through it, because there's a wealth of information really around unique visitors, returning visitors, who's accessing what, where people are viewing your courses from, like I said, what schools are looking at things, how many assessments, how many CVs have been created. So I think that's something really that's a really underutilized resource. And obviously, speaking of support, that's myself and my colleague, Mr. Gray. Both of us are obviously follically challenged. It must be a requisite to work at MZFEs, not have much hair. But if you need either of us, like I said, I'll share the presentation as well. Just drop us an email and we'll respond accordingly. But that's the end of the actual session. So I don't know if anybody's got any questions at this point. Put my camera back.
I just had a look, Ben, and there aren't any questions in the chat at the moment. I'm just have a quick look and give people a couple of seconds. That was really interesting, Ben. Even though we use Emsi, I've made some notes as well of things I need to think about and check out to make sure we're either doing or we're going to make sure we maximise, because there's just so much, isn't there, to be fair, with the system. It's so wide, and you can use one aspect of it and forget actually that you need to kind of work on the other bit as well, because there's a lot. It's constantly changing, and with careers being so high on the agenda, You know, it needs that focus, doesn't it? So it's good to listen to all of that. So thank you very much, really helpful. There aren't any questions, Ben. I would imagine that people were really listening intently, because you did come across with a lot of information there. And I think your offer to help and support anybody, I think most of us. Oh, we've got a question from Martin. Oh, go Martin. Well done for a Friday afternoon. Does the system have a career planning tool for enrolled students for their next steps?
We don't, and part of it, I suppose, is my frustration. It's called career coach, but it's not a career planner. It's speaking personally, we had an internal careers plan within our tutorial. When I worked at Chesterfield College, for example, we had a real clear point of what that careers offer looked like, what that careers tutorial looked like. And we were keen about, when we use this data, when we use other sources of data as well, other career systems to feed into it. So we don't, the closest we get to that is through someone completing a detailed assessment and then mapping that assessment through to like the courses they've studied. So there's no like specific, it's not like a fast tomato or I always forget the name of the one that Connections used to use. What was the one they used to use in schools for the software?
Oh, I can't think what it's called. It's a back about.
That's a brainwave.
Know what you mean? Yeah.
I can't remember the name, but it's not in its own right. It effectively allows you to market how your courses map to your local careers offer, and within those careers, what skills, what employers are advertising, and ultimately whether those jobs are growing or declining in your area. So, like I said, that sweet spot is very much around Gatsby 2, Gatsby 4. You can use it to justify. When I went for cross college matrix when I was at Chesterfield, we talked about, because we had a centralised admissions process as well as a central careers tutorial team, and we used this as part of that recruitment journey, and then we used it again. So matrix, like the fact that we kept revisiting the LMI, making sure that students were on the right courses, but that's very intentional in terms of how the college wants to run it, rather than us having that within the system.
I think that's one of the things about it, Ben, is it is quite configurable, and obviously because each college uses it in a different way, don't they? Depending on how they need it, how it works for their learners, their demographic, their careers plan. It is very much able to be configured for the way that you need it. One of the things I thought was really good when we were developing our careers hub with local schools was that we were able to offer it for students in schools, and they could just log on to our website. So when you look on our website, like Worcestershire College, it's quite front and centre, but that's deliberate so that we can, when we go out and do schools links, we can actually direct them straight to that website for some traffic onto that, and it's kind of a bit more impartial. Not always, sometimes those schools you can't always get into. It's ideal for us to promote it. So that's just another. It's a small thing, but actually quite good to be able to promote. And also from your career strategy, it's great to show that you've got those those things available for the wider community, not just for yourself.
100%. I mean, I think when I remember when I started at Chesterfield College, we had a sort of a good relationship with some schools, like a lot of colleges, good relationships with up to 16, not a good relationship with schools that had sixth forms, because we offered A levels as well at the time. And one of the things that the strategy that I had around that was to approach Emsi and say, is there a way of creating a portal like Career Coach, put the school logo on and take our courses off from an impartial perspective? And they came back and said, yeah, we'll do it. You're a good customer. We'll do that. And we created 10 of those sites, and we targeted each of the 10 most difficult schools to reach and said, look, it was a couple of SIFs ago, but obviously careers and destinations was still a big part of that. And obviously we've expanded that within their remit. And actually through doing that, we ended up as a college creating a commercial careers office and running a careers service in some of those schools. So we sort of went from, we don't want you coming in and talking to our students, to you're running our careers office.
That's exactly
that as well. And
that's exactly what we've done, Ben. We've done exactly the same thing. And we've got a schools linked program where we're going in and delivering quite a lot of careers in schools for those that haven't got careers advisors. So it is another way in. It's another thing, isn't it, that shows that impartiality if you can, which is great.
And we can do that. So within like a normal career coach contract, I think we do up to what we call 10 reskins, where you can create effectively 10 versions of your portal, but with a different school's logo on. The added advantage is obviously, as the owner of the license, you also see the activity of what schools are in.
Oh, we've lost Ben, I think.
You see how
We might have lost you.
Which again helps you cement around, the colleges that take advantage of that, and it's a really good way of doing it.
I lost you a little bit, Ben, but I'm there. I'm not quite sure what happened. I think you kind of went in and out, but it might just be mine. Obviously, I can't tell what everybody else can hear. So if there's any other questions, I think a couple of people put in the chat that need to leave now, but thank you, very informative. Is one of the messages. So thank you, Ben. Really appreciate your time this afternoon. Thanks to everybody that's joined us this afternoon. Obviously, get back in touch if you need anything from Ben, and the presentation and the video recording will be sent out to everybody, and need to have a lovely afternoon. Hopefully you get some wine in, or a bit of beer later, which is what I'm doing, which I always do on a Friday afternoon. Can't wait. So take care, everybody, and hopefully see you next time. Thanks. Bye.
Everyone, thank you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.